spalmer@ksl.com.
Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa. This weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa. This weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. 18-month interest-free financing. Our factories have demanded we sell 1,000 hot tubs and swim spas this weekend. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Huge factory incentives, factory rebates. This weekend only, Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. We can remove your old hot tub. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Hot tub starting at $2,999. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Just relax and enjoy. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Friday, 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Free admission, free parking, free delivery. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Call 833-SPA-SALE or visit hottubandSwimSpaSale.com.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Sinclair's Dino Pay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. And here's Michelle Rowe.
Well, we do have some construction going on at the mouth of Big Cottonwood Canyon that's affecting Wasatch Boulevard and Cottonwood Canyon Road. This is for drivers that are trying to make their way westbound out of the canyon. You will have to squeeze over into that center lane. Plan to visit the 12th Annual Utah Renaissance Fair, August 23rd and 24th at the Young Living Farms in Mona, Utah. Visit utahrenfair.org for tickets and details. I'm Michelle Rowe in the KSL Traffic Center.
There's a 60% chance of thunderstorms today, and daytime highs won't reach the level they did last week. Today's high should be around 93, tomorrow 91, 86, and partly cloudy right now. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com for Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson on Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Well, both the Trump and the Harris campaigns were busy this weekend campaigning, attempting to reframe the political narrative during the election season. However, there's another campaign that's not rising but fading, scheduling fewer campaign appearances. As the race between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris begins the final push as we march our way towards Labor Day and to the first Tuesday of November, the question about the third-party candidates, and in particular Robert F. Kennedy Jr., it's time to think again about that role in this coming November's election. Let's begin.
Think you know the news of the day? Think again with Boyd Matheson on KSL News Radio.
Well, this is a campaign that has been shaped, reshaped, misshaped, and shaped again. And I think we still have a few more machinations of all of that before we get to the first Tuesday of November. But if you think back at the beginning of the year, of course, many people were focusing on Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and what role his campaign, independent campaign, would play in a hotly contested Biden-Trump rematch from 2020. And as the spring rolled on, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was gaining some momentum. Never a big rocket ship kind of momentum, but steadily gathering signatures in states, getting on ballots, battling lawsuits from both Democrats and Republicans who wanted to keep him off of the ballot. And then there was a lot of debate in terms of, well, whose voters are these anyway? That's always a good question. And just remember, nobody owns any voters. Voters are voters. They're citizens of the United States of America. They don't belong to Democrats. They don't belong to Republicans or independents or libertarians or anyone else. They don't belong to any candidate. And so as we look at those, of course, a lot of people, again, on the left and on the right, we tend to call it the industrial complex in Washington, D.C., where the Republicans and the Democrats have their headquarters. And they believed that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was going to be a problem for them. And in the spring, it appeared that the problem was going to be for President Biden. At that point, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was tallying almost double digits, in some places around the country higher than that. And it appeared that he was peeling off more Democrats than Republicans to his campaign and cause. And so, of course, that rankled a lot of the Democrats who began to kind of fire some warning shots there to try to take him down with opposition research, to file lawsuits in key states they were trying to get on the ballot with. And that continued right up to the point that President Biden stepped out of the race. And then, of course, Kamala Harris very rapidly consolidated everything, became the presumptive nominee almost overnight, and the dynamics change. And that's always an interesting thing in a campaign, is when those moments happen, it is a test to see which campaign can be adaptive and even reactive when they need to, and then move forward. And the interesting thing is that the Trump campaign was clearly flat-footed and should not have been. Again, if you're a Republican strategist, there's no reason they should have been flat-footed or surprised by any stretch of the imagination, and yet they seem to be. And they still seem to be struggling to find their footing in terms of what kind of campaign is this anyway. And now, interestingly enough, it appears that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is pulling more votes from the Republican side. Of course, many of the Democrats who were hesitant about Joe Biden have gone home with Kamala Harris. And that's a natural thing. They tend to do that as you get closer to Election Day. Republicans tend to work their way back. Democrats tend to work their way back into the fold, so to speak. And so now we're at this very interesting place where RFK Jr. is definitely more of a problem for the Trump campaign than they are for the Harris campaign. And so then what happened? So the popularity, the energy behind the campaign for RFK Jr. has been dwindling, to say the least. And the candidate himself has mostly been out of the limelight, other than some interesting stray news stories here and there about bears and bicycles in Central Park. But as his numbers continue to drop, so has his support and focus. He hasn't been doing events. His vice president has been nowhere to be seen in terms of his running mate. And when you look at the dollars and cents of it all, they're racking up a lot of debt and don't have a lot of dollars and cents to maintain it. So that becomes a very interesting question of, will Robert F. Kennedy Jr. stay all the way to the end? And if so, what impact will that actually have? Will he have enough of a number, and will he be on the ballot in enough states to actually impact the ultimate results come November? So all of these things are becoming very fascinating questions as this topsy-turvy election cycle that we are in continues. And I don't think it's done, folks. So that's your forward-looking statement for the week. We are 1 week away from the Democratic National Convention kicking off in Chicago, Illinois. We know it'll be a big event. We know that President Biden will speak on the very first night. I think that's strategic. They want to get that done. I think they want to give a tip of the hat to President Biden for his years of service to the Democratic Party, his time as president, and then they want to get him off the stage. And it needs to become the Harris-Walz ticket and the Harris-Walz convention. So President Biden will make a very early appearance, first day, and then that part will be done and everything will pivot forward. So you can expect that the first night will be much more of a look back, maybe a little bit of nostalgia, and then it will be a pivot. And how do they move forward? So in the context of all of that, of course, we'll have to see what Robert F. Kennedy Jr. continues to do. Because, again, in a lot of those battleground states, it's still very close. A single percentage point could make the difference. And we often talk about that in the context of don't throw away your vote. That's what the political parties want you to believe. Don't throw away your vote. No vote of conscience is ever a thrown away vote. I think that's a very important thing. We should all chisel that in granite and hang it above the door. No vote. If you are voting your conscience, that is never a thrown away vote. Doesn't matter who. But far too often, we allow both the left and the right to convince us that voting for anyone other than the two major political party candidates is a vote thrown away. And I'm just going to say it one more time. If I say it 1,000 more times between now and November, that is the most certain way to maintain the status quo of power And if you don't like the divisiveness of the country right now, if you don't like the polarization right now, then we have to do it different. And to do it different, you have to have other options. But as long as Democrats and Republicans can convince us that there are only two options, then the status quo will remain. And we'll continue to have the same kind of wedge issues and the same kind of polarized politics and rhetoric that we have endured for far too long in this country. And this is not about any kind of group hug moment or kumbaya, but it is about the possibility. I think one of the things that will be the legacy of Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s campaign, you can criticize a million different things, you can disagree with him on every policy or statement from his past. That's not the issue. I think the single issue that he could be remembered for in this campaign is ballot access. Because that's a conversation we need to have. If we want to have things go a little different in the country, we have to have political people and political parties who can get on ballots without having to spend tens of millions of dollars and all kinds of lawsuits, because the monopoly, the two-headed monopoly, to use RFK's phrase, continues to dominate. And as long as they make us believe that's the only choice, then the monopoly with two heads, Democrat and Republican, will continue. And so if nothing else, I think the Robert F. Kennedy Jr. campaign, though it seems to be fizzling a bit and flailing a lot, it may continue, and it may actually have an important legacy if we all decide we don't have to just choose out of two. There are more choices. And when we make those choices, that's when things actually begin to change. We'll be right back.
Think again on Inside Sources with Boyd Matheson. It's already that time again.
Back to school shopping can be expensive.
Some students return this week.
There are resources available.
From the cost of supplies to your school still filling open positions, we have you covered with helpful updates to get you back in the swing for back to school this week on KSL News Radio.
You may have expected today to be like yesterday or the day before, but when it comes to what today really is, you may need to look again. You see, today's the day to reach out to Loyal Energy and ask about the $1,500 they have waiting for you if you're a homeowner and you commit to going solar. Yes, $1,500. That's pretty unusual, but actually, so's their name. Why Loyal Energy? Because their goal's to be your honest and loyal energy company that puts you first. Look, you're not stuck with your current energy company, and Loyal Energy's ready to help you break free with cutting-edge solar energy and roofing solutions that deliver clean and sustainable power. And they're willing to pay you $1,500 to go solar and start seeing savings from the first day. You weren't expecting this from today, but here it is. Transform your energy usage, reduce costs, and contribute to a sustainable environment at loyalenergy.com. Loyalenergy.com.
At Fisher Investments, we may seem like other money managers, but we're different.
Are you really that different than the rest of us?
We are. As a fiduciary, we always focus on what's best for our clients.
What services do you offer besides investing?
We have a team of specialists in financial planning, estate planning, and more.
Your clients rely on you for all that?
Yes, we ensure clients receive unparalleled service at every step of the relationship.
Okay, but you still sell commission-based products, right?
No, because we believe that's a conflict of interest. We prioritize service over sales goals.
So, then how do your fees work?
We have a simple and transparent fee that's a percentage of our clients' portfolios. So we do better when our clients do better.
Wow, we're more different than I thought.
At Fisher Investments, we're clearly different. Learn more at fisherinvestments.com.
Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
This is Derek Overstreet of the New Millennium Group and host of Stop Working and Start Living Radio. If you're close to or in retirement and you don't have a tax plan, call us right now, 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370. Listen, our country's been spending like never before, and the tax bill is coming soon. If you need an income tax strategy and a financial plan that will get you through the rest of your life, give my team a call, 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370. If you want an investment plan that allows you to keep more of your gains and pay less taxes, give us a call, 888-999-6370. My team specializes in the type of plan that will get you retired 3 to 5 years sooner than you thought possible. So, get a no-cost tax analysis by calling 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370. My team is standing by now.
With Progressive's Name Your Price tool, you can easily find coverage options that fit your budget. If only it was that easy to name your baby.
How about Jaden?
Nope.
Okay. Michael?
Went to middle school with a glue-eating Michael.
Sebastian?
Dated one in college.
How about Damien?
Vampire name.
All right. Greg?
Not feeling it.
Okay. No worries. No worries. Jeffrey?
Oh, love that one.
Wait, really?
No.
Find coverage options that fit your budget with Progressive's Name Your Price tool. Get a quote at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
Want to keep your gas-powered engines running like new? Stable's proprietary formulas are proven by third-party testing to outperform the competition in keeping fuel fresh, preventing corrosion, and cleaning the entire fuel system. With Stable, you can have confidence you are doing the right thing for your engine's long-term health. Just pour into your gas can or fuel tank, then top off with fresh fuel. At every fill-up or when you store, start with Stable. Available where fuel additives are sold.
Getting help with plumbing repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Social Security is with you through life's journey from birth to retirement. As your life changes year to year, so do your needs. For over 80 years, Social Security has helped to meet your needs and is committed to improving access to the services that make a difference in your life. Today, you can verify your earnings, estimate your future benefits, apply for retirement, manage your benefits, and even change your address, all from the comfort of your home. Social Security's online services help put you in control with secure access to your information anytime, anywhere, allowing you to spend more time with family, friends, or simply just enjoying the day. Social Security, securing today and tomorrow. See what you can do online at socialsecurity.gov.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, sudden thunderstorms like the ones we're expecting this afternoon can result in microbursts that can cause serious damage in a small area. Second, ground broken today for a new NHL hockey practice facility in Sandy. And third, it's called the Gold Bar scam. People in Maryland have already lost millions. 86 degrees, partly cloudy in Salt Lake City. Back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Get deeper insights on the news from Inside Sources.
Over the weekend, the Army of Ukraine mounted an offensive campaign into Russian territory, taking the fight and the war to the Russians. So far, it's been a success, and we see the Russian military definitely on their back foot, at minimum, as the Ukrainians have outmaneuvered the Russian army in significant ways. So we want to take a look at what happened and what are the next steps in the operation. What does that mean, and what role will the United States continue to play in all of this, along with our other allies around the world? As we often do, we turn to retired Colonel Jonathan Sweet. He served 30 years as a military intelligence officer, led the U.S. European Command Intelligence Engagement Division from 2012 to 2014. And Colonel, welcome back to the show. And this is such an interesting moment in all of this, where suddenly Ukraine is not just in, as you and I have discussed many times, not just holding the line, but is actually pushing forward now. Give us your sense in terms of what's happened over the last 10 days and what's the lay of the land.
Well, thanks, first of all. Thanks for having us back on. Mark and I wrote an article in the Kiev Post that ran yesterday, in which we kind of laid out what we thought was going on. And to be honest with you, I think it may have even caught Ukraine by surprise. I think it was probably a cross-border raid that was going on, and they experienced success, and they exploited success, and they continued to exploit success at a rate which I think they didn't even think they're going to. But I also think there's a lot of good reconnaissance being done along the border in which they found those soft spots. Russia's been massing troops along the border in certain areas, and in this particular area, I think they were one deep. They didn't have established defensive positions, rather border stations. And once they got through that first echelon, it just opened up. And now Russia is reacting, and Ukraine has seized the initiative. It's changed the landscape of the war in that part of Ukraine.
Yeah, no question about that. One of the things you wrote in your piece, again, that appeared in the Kyiv Post, you and Mark wrote, I thought so importantly, that Putin's army can lay siege, it can inch forward, usually bleeding bodies, but it can't maneuver. Talk to us about that for just a second and how that might impact what happens next in this battle.
Yeah, so if you go back and look at the last 2.5 years of this war, the Russian military has been very effective at massing infantry, massing artillery against an objective, and just relentlessly hitting it over and over and over again until the Ukrainian military has exhausted their ammunition and has had to withdraw from the area. So Russia's not an army of maneuver. Rather, Russia's an army of mass. Ukraine's more situated for maneuver. So now that Russia has their frontline echelons have been defeated, they have to reposition forces to contend with the threat as it goes deeper into Russia. And Russia doesn't maneuver well. So what they're doing, you'll see. I mean, you see on Twitter, you see on other social media platforms, they're throwing guys in the back of trucks and they're sprinting to the next to their next fight, and that's exposing them. So no longer does Ukraine have to target them in trench lines. Ukraine now has convoys full of trucks, 20 to 30 each, and they're just taking them out on the highway. So there's been a very high casualty rate of Russian soldiers that have been repositioning from one position to the other.
Yeah, and as you look at that play out, I think one of the things that is striking to me that clearly President Zelensky is fighting to win this. We've talked a lot about the fact that if you're just playing not to lose or you're just playing to maintain, that's rarely a winning strategy. And when you back up that desire to play to win with the assets required, then everything changes. And it seems to me that we're at that kind of inflection point where people could say, look, the Ukrainians are playing to win. They are clearly proving they can win. And maybe it is time to ratchet that up in terms of providing them the things that they need to not just maintain, but to win.
Absolutely. And I think that was part of the calculus, which is I can show the United States and I can show the West that I have the capability of doing this. And look, Germany of all countries, the country that will not provide a Taurus missile system to Ukraine, has told Ukraine and also Russia that, hey, when we give you the weapons, it's your weapon to use however you see fit. The U.S., on the other hand, the spokesperson from the State Department a couple of days ago said there's been no change to U.S. policy, meaning you can't use U.S. weapons to target Russians in Russia. So it's this tug of war, and it's almost as if by Germany doing one thing, they're kind of shaming the United States to actually do something to provide a little bit more. But the opportunities on the combat on the battlefields only arise at certain times, and he who gets there first wins. And right now, Ukraine has the initiative, what they need, because it's going to be hard to sustain this. I mean, they're 40 kilometers inside the country. They have extended lines of communications. They need something to either continue the attack or they're going to have to go to ground and defend what they own. And once they go to ground, Russia gains the advantage now because Russia is going to be able to mass artillery and mass infantry on top of them. So it's a chess game, and right now Ukraine has the initiative and Russia is on its heels. The only way to keep them on their heels is to continue being aggressive and pursue.
Yeah, give us one last thing to look for, especially as we move into the fall. We know as things start to get a little bit colder there, when we kind of get into the cold grind of winter months. What should we be watching for in the weeks and the next 6 to 8 weeks before we get into late fall and into winter?
So let's take a look at the targets that Ukraine's been going after recently. They've been going after additional oil terminals and refineries. During this attack, they attacked one of the largest natural gas facilities. It's a metering station that 50% of natural gas that goes to Europe comes from that metering station. So they're attacking Russia's pocketbook. But again, at the same time, because Russia has to maneuver, Russia's losing people at a higher rate that they're going to be able to sustain for the near term. And also what we're seeing is a repositioning of tanks, and we're starting to see again T-55 tanks, Korean War vintage, soldiers being outfitted without modern weapons, and we're seeing more conscripts, something that Putin has told his population. Conscripts aren't in the war. Conscripts are back in other areas. So he really has he's really in a difficult situation as far as how he's going to react. I suspect, though, they're going to do what they normally do. They're going to mass as much as they can, and in the meantime, they're going to start hitting civilian targets again as hard as they can, as often as they can, to try to get Ukraine to back off.
Great perspective, as always. I appreciate your perspective, Colonel Jonathan Sweet. And again, great piece in the Kyiv Post with Jonathan Sweet and, of course, also a friend of the show, Mark Toth. And, Colonel, we appreciate your perspective. This is going to be a very crucial season in this battle for Ukraine, and we appreciate you joining us today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me back on board. I appreciate it.
All right. Again, that's Jonathan Sweet joining us on the program. And as always, we appreciate him making time. I know he is out of the country and staying up late for us to give us some great insight in what's happening and what Ukraine is doing, why it matters, and how it could be one of those tipping point moments. We'll watch to continue to see what happens next. We'll step aside for bottom of the hour news. More Inside Sources coming up next.
It's 1:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top local story this hour. The Utah Hockey Club has broken ground on its future practice facility at the Shops at Southtown in Sandy. Mayor Monica Zoltansky says she's spoken to several families who say they're excited to have the team in their backyards.
There's a lot of hockey families who live here, and people are literally gearing up. We can't wait to have the practice time on the ice, or figure skating and hockey practice leagues, youth leagues.
Smith Entertainment Group says they're working to have the facility ready to go later next year before the start of the 25-26 NHL season. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. The White House is warning an attack by Iran and its proxies against Israel could be launched this week. Iran has threatened retaliation for the assassination of top leaders of Hamas and Hezbollah. A U.S. intelligence assessment wasn't specific on exactly when an Iranian attack might take place or what it might look like. Earlier today, President Biden spoke with leaders from France, Germany, Italy, and the U.K. about ongoing efforts to de-escalate tensions in the Middle East. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average is down right now, 159 points, while the NASDAQ has risen just a little, up 36 points right now. And our KSL weather. We could see a thunderstorm this afternoon in several different places around Utah. That's next. KSL News Time, 1:31.
Here's a way to get breaking news updates anywhere you go.
At the store or in a work meeting, you can get breaking news on your phone.
You can quickly read it, swipe, or click for more. It's super discreet, super fast.
That's the app for KSL News Radio.
Oh no, stomach issues again?
Stomach issues?
Who are you?
Your pancreas. I could be the real reason for your diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose oily stools.
I thought it was my stomach.
People often do, but any of these symptoms could mean having a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and speak with your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
This is the story of the one. As head of maintenance at a concert hall, he knows the show must always go on. That's why he works behind the scenes, ensuring every light is working, the HVAC is humming, and his facility shines. With Grainger's supplies and solutions for every challenge he faces, plus 24/7 customer support, his venue never misses a beat. Call quickgrainger.com or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Introducing Peach Doors and Windows. Are you ready to upgrade your home with stunning new doors but are overwhelmed with how to begin? Peach Doors is here to make the entire process smooth and stress-free. Visit their showroom to see their wide selection of wood doors, durable fiberglass, energy-efficient aluminum, oversized glass bifold doors, and so much more. It's not just about looks, it's about durability and security to protect what matters most. Let them help you find the perfect match for your home, budget, and personal style. Visit their showroom and see for yourself. No pushy sales tactics, only guidance from their experienced staff. No inflated markups just to offer so-called discounts. See their 5-star reviews where customers rate them on their attention to detail through every step of the sale and installation process. Amazing home transformations begin with windows and doors. Serving Logan to St. George, just Google Peach Building to see for yourself.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Sinclair's DinoPay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. Here's Michelle Rowe.
We have a new crash southbound I-15. This is in the Mona area. The crash is off to the left. Traffic is slowing down to get around the crash, but not causing a lot of delays. Receive 0% for 5 years on the 2024 Tucson or Elantra. When you walk through the doors, you feel like family at Murdoch Hyundai in Logan, Linden, Murray, or online at murdochhyundai.com. I'm Michelle Rowe in the KSL Traffic Center.
There's a 60% chance of thunderstorms today. Daytime highs won't reach the level they did last week. Today's high should be around 93, tomorrow 91. Right now it's 86 degrees and partly cloudy. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Get deeper insights on the news from inside sources.
The rise of Kamala Harris as the Democratic presidential nominee has reignited a lot of discussions around the significance of identity in American politics. And while many celebrate the possibilities of electing the first woman to the presidency, the focus on representation should not be eclipsed there. And the need to assess candidates on their merits, their qualifications, and, of course, principles and policies. We have to get to that part of that conversation. And a wonderful piece in the New York Times today. Pamela Paul, opinion columnist at the Times, talked about this whole idea that Harris might become the first female president, but keep the focus where it belongs. And she joins us on the line. Pamela, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So let's dig into this. I think you've gone at this in such a smart conversation. In terms of, yes, there's a lot of things to be excited about. It is kind of a vibe feel that Democrats are riding right now. But we shouldn't let that obscure some of the other things that might matter, not just to win a campaign, but to actually lead and govern a country.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very distrustful of the whole Kamala vibes, all of the excitement that's happening right now. And I hate to, opt out of the dance party here, but I do think we need to elect a candidate based on the substance. And Kamala Harris is in the unfortunate circumstance of, one, not having had a particular standout tenure as a vice president, and two, she did not go through a primary process, and so she really did not have the opportunity to differentiate herself not only from President Biden, but also from, possible other stances of other candidates who might have run for president if the whole situation had played out differently.
Yeah, and we just had a conversation with Jonah Goldberg, and we were talking about this idea of testing, through that primary process, and actually talked about how former President Barack Obama was so tested in the primary. He didn't cinch the nomination over Hillary Clinton until June of 2008, but it made him a better candidate for the fall, and I think it made him a better president because he had to go through that process, and this clearly isn't going to happen this time around, but there has to be a moment where the tough questions have to be asked and answered.
Right. I mean, we know that the electorate overall was not enchanted with the concept of either Trump or Biden as the, nominees. I think that a lot of Republicans would have perhaps liked to have had another option. Certainly, Democrats wanted another option other than Biden. But the solution to that on the Democrat side was not to essentially anoint someone to be the candidate, but to allow the American voters to have the opportunity to select, to at least go through some kind of process. And if you doubt that, Biden essentially appointed Kamala, he really did. I mean, he handed over all of his money, his significant war chest, which I think was, in the $90 plus million. And so there really wasn't a chance for Americans to weigh in. And the idea that we already voted for Kamala Harris when we voted for the Biden-Harris ticket in 2020 is really not persuasive, because most people either A, voted for Biden and he chose Kamala Harris, and so she was part of the package, or B, they voted against Trump. But I don't think that anyone voted in that election for Kamala Harris, and nobody voted in a primary process to select Kamala Harris as the Democratic nominee. And at this point, I think, she's simply been riding a huge amount of enthusiasm to have someone who could conceivably win and someone who is not Biden. We just don't know in what ways is she not Biden? What positions does she take that differ from his? We don't know any of that, not in terms of domestic policy, not in terms of political philosophy, and not in terms of foreign policy.
Yeah, and I think that's been an interesting thing to see from the campaign standpoint of that she really is an idea. Like, she's not a person. She doesn't have – no one's looked at the record. No one's really gone after any of those things, because it's just this idea that she's not Joe Biden and she's not Donald Trump. And that's sort of been what they've been riding. But I think that that road or that wave eventually ends, and the question will be, will they be ready to actually make the case for a President Harris as opposed to the idea of a President Harris?
Right. I mean, remember, people were very enthusiastic. Not everyone, obviously, not enough people, though she did win the popular vote, but people were very enthusiastic. There were vibes about Hillary Clinton back in 2016, and that did not translate into an effective and winning candidacy. So I just think that, the internet is not real life, and it's very fun, I guess, for many people to, circulate the memes and join these various kind of identity-based group Zooms where you have celebrity drop-ins. But that is not going to, in my opinion, I don't think that will affect especially voters in battleground states who are still undecided to go for Kamala Harris.
Yeah, in fact, I wanted you to unpack that for us a little bit, that all of these Zoom calls, all of these different identities for Kamala Harris is such an interesting and it's almost an odd thing to me in terms of, one, again, ride the vibe, fine. But again, it doesn't really impact. Unpack that for us a little in terms of how you see that playing out as things go into the fall.
Well, I mean, what I wrote the column about specifically was the question of whether we make this about electing the first female president. And other people might fill that in with the first South Asian president or the first black president, first black woman president. And I really think that that is the wrong message to send. I think that when Joe Biden selected Ketanji Jackson, as his Supreme Court nominee, rather than say, I want to select the best person and come up with three candidates who happen to have been all black women, he said, I would like to find the best black female justice. And that sounds good on the surface, but what it really does is undermine those candidates, because Ketanji Brown Jackson may well have been the best candidate of anyone. And that is how she should have been selected. I am looking for the best candidate, and I have found this person. But what you do by making it about identity is you inherently undermine that person, because they are then forever known as, well, this person was picked because they fit that category. They were picked only among this group. I mean, honestly, the idea was unwritten that Harris had to pick a white man, I felt like was similarly not a great message to send, because there were other really strong candidates like Gretchen Whitmer, like Wes Moore, who didn't necessarily fit that demographic category. And it just enables people to have this idea of like, well, what are you basing this on? Are you basing this on some kind of demographic identity group category because you're looking to balance it, you're looking for something winning, or are you actually going for the substance of who will best govern this country?
And that is where we have to get who will best govern whatever the role is. If we're doing it just on identity, we're solely missing the boat, and we're creating more opportunities for division and mistrust in the process and in the people.
Right. I mean, all of these things are a double-edged sword, right? Because if you make a big deal about, oh, we're going to elect the first woman president, well, then if the first woman president is then a failure, you can say, oh, well, we knew it because we elected her, we elected this person as a woman. It enables you then to make these gross generalizations about an entire demographic category, in this case, half the planet, based on the performance of one person, which is why the conversation should be about who Kamala Harris is as an individual, not about what group identity she belongs to, because there's no way that one person can embody all of the characteristics of not just one category, but in her case, of checking off 3 different boxes. She's not a representative of any of those people. She is supposed to be a representative for all Americans.
That is a fantastic perspective. Pamela Paul, opinion columnist at the New York Times. You need to check out this piece. This is worth reading. And I don't care where you fall on the political spectrum, who you're for, who you're against. This is important thinking in terms of identity politics and how do we make sure that we always have the best people who will govern in the best interest of the people. Pamela, thanks so much for joining us.
I'm happy to have joined. Thanks so much.
All right, again, that's Pamela Paul, opinion columnist from the New York Times, and that is some important conversation right there. We'll step aside for a quick break. More Inside Sources coming up next. Stick around.
It's already that time again.
Back to school shopping can be expensive.
Some students return this week.
There are resources available.
From the cost of supplies to your school still filling open positions, we have you covered with helpful updates to get you back in the swing for back to school this week on KSL News Radio.
Well, as you get ready for fall, your kids are going back to school, and it's a great time for you to evaluate your retirement options, and no better place to do that than at Hercules Credit Union. Along with Solitude Wealth Management, you can take advantage right now of a free consultation. Get your financial house in order. Get your plan set as you roll into the fall. Hercules Credit Union has been doing this since 1946. They're always about growing stronger together, and it's never about just transactions with Hercules Credit Union. It's about a relationship. It's about education to make sure you have all the info that you need to make the best financial decisions for you. You can check out their locations in Taylorsville, Harriman, and Riverton. And as always with our friends at Hercules Credit Union, you can just find them online anytime at HerculesCU.com. That's HerculesCU.com.
KSL offers the best daily newsletter in the state. It's the 3 things you need to know. Every weekday, we deliver quality and relevant content to your inbox. No ads, no spam, just the 3 things you need to know to be informed about the world around you. Subscribe today. Visit KSLNewsRadio.com or text the word inbox to 57500. That's inbox to 57500.
The best things in life, they come in 2s. 2 scoops of ice cream, 2 tacos. And now for a limited time, get our best deal of the year. Buy any phone when you switch to Consumer Cellular and get 2 months of service free. That's right, the same fast, reliable nationwide coverage as Big Wireless, now with 2 months free. Proof the best things in life really do come in 2s. Visit ConsumerCellular.com or call 1-888-FREEDOM. Second and third month of monthly base service fee waived for new customers with the purchase of a phone and activation by September 2nd, 2024. Taxes, fees, and third-party charges will apply. See website for additional details.
Did you know your skin is the largest organ of your body? Huh? That's why you should shower with Old Spice Super Hydration Body Wash instead of plain old bar soap. Love your skin by super hydrating it with vitamin B3 and glorious notes of vanilla and shea. Did you know that my super hydrated skin is the second largest organ of my body? The first is my heart. Old Spice. Men have skin too. Old Spice Super Hydration Body Wash. 24/7 renewing moisture with daily use.
The key to unlock the next breakthrough in cancer research could be sitting in your driveway. Stand Up to Cancer's vehicle donation program makes it easy to turn your unwanted vehicle into funding to support innovative cancer research. So when you're looking to get rid of your old car, truck, motorcycle, RV, or boat, why not donate it to Stand Up to Cancer? You can be a driving force in cancer research. Donate your car today. Visit standuptocancer.org/cars to learn more.
Attention homeowners considering roof replacement in 2024. Light up your home this August with Master Roofing. Schedule your roof replacement by September 10th and receive a free V-Lux sun tunnel valued at $1,200. Perfect for brightening your bathrooms and hallways. Don't miss out. Visit masterroofingutah.com to schedule your free assessment and claim your free V-Lux sun tunnel. Call 801-383-0072 or visit masterroofingutah.com today. Light up your home with Master Roofing.
Mom and Dad used to argue about everything, especially about Dad's drinking. It drove me crazy. It got so bad, I couldn't do my homework. I couldn't concentrate. I absolutely refused to let any of my friends come to our house for any reason. I would have been humiliated if anyone found out how much my dad drank and how loud my mom screamed at him. My family went from totally crazy to quiet, calm, and even peaceful. The only thing that happened is my mom started going to Al-Anon family groups. Her relationship with my dad really changed. I asked Mom if she would take me to her Al-Anon meetings or to Alateen. I wanted to see if I could have a better relationship with my dad. I'm sure glad I did. If someone's drinking troubling you, you might be surprised at what you can learn in an Al-Anon or Alateen family group from people just like you. Call 1-888-4-ALANON or go to alanon.org.
At Social Security, we are always thinking of ways to save you time and make things easier. That's why we created My Social Security. Opening a My Social Security account gives you secure access to your personal record and interactive tools tailored for you. You can see if you are eligible to receive benefits, view spousal benefit estimates, and compare retirement benefit estimates at different ages or dates when you want to start receiving benefits. Already receiving benefits? Use your account to change your address, set up or change direct deposit, get a proof of income letter, and more. In most states, you can also request a replacement Social Security card. Save time. Go online. Open a My Social Security account at ssa.gov/myaccount. Social Security, securing today and tomorrow.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
Tim and Amanda.
One of the big differences, I think, between reading a story online and hearing it from us, Tim, is that, you and I are allowed to share a reaction. We need to be able to say, what in the world were they thinking? So that people listening will know. We feel it too. When we read a story that sounds ridiculous, we're right with you. It sounds ridiculous.
Well, we get caught up, I'm sure just like our listeners do sometimes, in death scrolling on social media. And fact-checking it on your own is tough. The great thing about tuning in every morning and starting your morning with us on KSL is you can count on the fact that when that information comes out of the radio in your direction, it comes from reliable sources.
It's already been fact-checked.
Right. And that's not always easy when you're getting it online. Finding who wrote it, when was it written, has it been updated with the current facts of the day that change sometimes minute to minute, not just day to day.
Utah's Morning News between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
Email from school about the incident today.
Scary.
Teachers like me, parents, we don't always know as much as you guys do about what's going on with other kids.
Half the time, it's rumors.
Yeah, but if you're ever concerned about a friend who's having trouble with alcohol, prescription drugs, anything, you need to tell an adult, someone you know and trust. That can be hard, but speaking up about a problem is what helping a friend is all about.
For more information, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, the new practice facility for Utah's NHL team broke ground today. Should be finished by the 25-26 season. Second, the White House is warning a retaliatory attack by Iran against Israel could happen as soon as this week. And third, the Olympics in France are helping kids in Utah get interested in gymnastics. 86 degrees, partly cloudy in Salt Lake City. Back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Hear elevated conversation on crucial issues. Boyd Matheson on Inside Sources.
Well, as the 2024 presidential race continues to intensify, media coverage of all candidates has come under renewed scrutiny, and rightly so. A lot of the recent events have highlighted the challenges in accurately portraying political figures to the American public. And I think a lot of that, on both the left and the right, has rightly been criticized as either not asking the hard questions, not doing the follow-up, or swaying one direction or the other, whether you're on the political left or the political right. But none of that helps in terms of credibility and confidence of the American people in what they're hearing and what they're getting. I actually believe that a series of a different kind of debate could change the dynamic. Because sadly, the more we lose our confidence, particularly in the national media, it adds to our already failing and falling confidence and trust in political figures or elected officials and the institutions of government. And that is a whipsaw blender kind of situation that puts you into a death spiral. So as you lose trust in one, you lose trust in another. And if nobody is speaking the truth, if everybody is just saying what's on their own agenda, then we don't get to this thing called the truth. It's actually an important thing to cover and have a conversation about. And so I think we are at a moment where we could have a great reset in terms of getting back to principles and getting back to policies, starting with the highest office in the land. And so we know there is going to be at least one debate between former President Trump and current Vice President Kamala Harris that is scheduled with ABC coming up just after Labor Day. There's also been some rumors floated about two other potential debates taking place. But again, they've focused these kind of in the traditional places. So, of course, if you do one on ABC and you've already done one on CNN, and of course, you've got to do one on Fox, and we kind of end up in the same place. I think a lot of people were disappointed with the CNN debate. And, of course, aside from the debacle that it was for the President Biden, there were a lot of other things that didn't go particularly well in terms of navigating and moderating a debate. So I think we should do it a little different. So I'm going to propose, the University of Utah was actually supposed to be one of the locations for one of the three debates this fall. And, of course, that all fell apart early in the summer, in the spring, as both candidates, then it was President Biden and former President Trump, when their camps decided that they would no longer cooperate with the debate commission. And so the debate that was scheduled up at the University of Utah was canceled among the other two. And then we were sort of in this limbo until we got to the CNN debate between Biden and Trump. And so now we're in this new space. And so I think what we ought to do is we ought to go back to the University of Utah. They're all set up for a debate. They know what to do up there. And we should have a different kind of debate. I think we should have a debate. We could certainly center it in the Utah model. Utah's not perfect, but I think it's a good model for the country in so many things in terms of how we talk about principles and policies, and we enact things that make a difference and have clearly created a thriving economy, have created upward mobility, and we've been able to navigate some pretty sticky issues over the course of the years. And so just use it as a model, not to hold it up as perfection or anything else, but just, hey, here's one of those little laboratory of democracies that is doing pretty well. Continue to lead out in so many different things, from best place to live to best place to do business, and on those lists go. But let's have a conversation around it. Let's have a principled and a policy conversation around it and how that might play out for someone running for president. So I think we should invite the Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump to the Beehive State for a debate. And we'll do it different. We will not do the shouting matches or talking points. We will not allow the candidates to talk about whatever they want to talk about, despite the questions. I actually went back. Yes, I did go back and rewatch some of the Biden-Trump debate. And I don't know that there was a single answer given to any of the questions that were posed by CNN in which the candidate solely answered the question that they were asked. I don't think there were any. They always had something else that they wanted to talk about instead of the question that they were asked. And you can say, well, that's just good politics. Well, I don't care about the politics. I want to have a good debate. I want to have a debate that matters around principles and policy. So the first rule of the debate, should the Harris and the Trump campaigns choose to participate, is if you're not talking about the question that was asked, you lose your time. Simple as that. If the question is about guns or choice or healthcare and you're talking about Ukraine or China or something else, you just lose your time. It's just that simple. And we're not going to reward bad behavior, as tends to have been the process these days. So no rewarding bad behavior. If you're off topic, you're off mic, and your time is done. That's rule number one. Second, we're going to do a whole different kind of questioning. So we're not going to give them just the standard 60 to 90 seconds to rattle off whatever they want to talk about or whatever their talking points might be for the night. We're going to force them to actually talk a little bit longer. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but the longer someone talks about an issue, the more you will understand what they do know and what they do not know. And that's important. Anybody can fake it for 30, 60, or 90 seconds. If you have to talk about it for several minutes, coherently, specifically, on policy and vision and what it will do and what the results will be, that will expose a lot of cracks if you don't know what you're talking about. So we're going to have longer periods of time to talk about the issues. And then we're going to give them an opportunity to just talk about some things that matter and prioritize their time. We'll turn it into, you've heard me talk about gamifying a debate a little bit. We'll give them a block of time and say, you can take these 5 questions, and if you want to spend all of your time on question number 1, you get no time for the other 4. If you want to spend just 30 seconds on one of the issues, that's great. That also sends a message of what's important to you and what is not. That's an important thing for us to understand about someone who's going to lead the country. So I think there's a host of things that we could do to do it different when it comes to debate, and I think we should extend the invitation to the Trump and Harris campaigns, say we'll meet you at the University of Utah for a real debate about real issues, and let's see if we can't have a different kind of conversation in the nation as we roll into the fall campaign. All right, that wraps up hour number 1 of Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. We'll step aside for some top-of-the-hour news, but don't go anywhere. We're going to come back with a big hour number 2 coming up next. Stick around. We'll be right back.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
It's 2 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. Our top story this hour, a father from Layton died at Willard Bay, drowned trying to save his son over the weekend. Andre DeBose's son jumped in to help a young woman who'd been struggling. When the son began struggling, DeBrose jumped in with a life jacket. The woman and DeBrose made it back to the boat, DeBrose's son rather, but stormy weather pulled DeBrose under. He didn't resurface. The body was found about 6 hours later. More kids are getting interested in gymnastics following the success of American athletes at the Summer Olympics. Jesse Duke, a coach at Olympus Gymnastics in South Jordan, says their phone has been ringing a lot.
We probably had 50 families calling the last couple weeks, kids wanting to try out, probably about that many.
Duke says the average age of beginners is 7, but they've had some as young as 3. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. A former student at Cornell University has been sentenced to 21 months in prison for making threats against Jewish students. Patrick Dye pleaded guilty to those charges. The judge considered Dye's autism and nonviolent history and reduced his sentence. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average down 140 points on the day right now. The NASDAQ, though, is up 35. And our KSL weather. We could see some thunder showers around this afternoon. That's next. KSL News Time, 2:01.
News doesn't just mean information or dates.
It's the story of our local history being told in real time.
Be a part of the story. This is Tim Hughes and Amanda Dixon.
We hope to be a part of your story. We have you covered on KSL News Radio.
Whether you own a local business or a global one, you're always looking for ways to position your operation to create opportunities and move on them faster. With Bank of America, you get access to experts, award-winning insights, and business solutions so powerful, you'll make every move matter, locally and globally. Visit bankofamerica.com/banking for business to learn more. What would you like the power to do? Copyright 2024 Bank of America N.A.
Oh no, stomach issues again?
Stomach issues? Who are you? Your pancreas. I could be the real reason for your diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose oily stools.
I thought it was my stomach.
People often do, but any of these symptoms could mean having a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and speak with your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
That precious cool air inside your house shouldn't be seeping out through old drafty windows, but if it does, get stylish new windows and frames at factory direct pricing from Advanced Window Products. This is Jeff Kaplan. Advanced Window Products has been building windows here in Salt Lake City for 38 years. But even if you don't need windows, they can give your interior a fresh new look with blinds, shades, and shutters from Graber. They offer custom crafted window treatments featuring the trendiest designs, premium materials, and quality without compromise. Advanced Windows offers start-to-finish service with shorter lead times so you get your custom blinds, shades, and shutters sooner. Call them for a free in-home consultation with their designers. It's a no-pressure experience, and if you need new windows, $2,500 off on 10 windows or more. Or if you need window treatments, it's Advanced Window Products, 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100, or go to advancedwindowsusa.com.
We have emergency traffic right now, brought to you by Sinclair's Dino Pay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. Here's Michelle Rowe.
Well, this is a new crash. This is northbound I-15 approaching 3900 south. Traffic is building quickly as the 3 right lanes are blocked. This is a crash with possible injuries. We do have multiple vehicles on both sides of the freeway. Other than that, you're seeing pretty good speeds. A little bit of wet roads down in the southwest part of the valley. Fill up your bucket list with Box Elder County. History, recreation, wildlife, excellent dining and shopping await you. Learn more at boxeldercounty.com. Sponsored by the Utah Office of Tourism. I'm Michelle Rowe in the KSL Traffic Center.
There's a 60% chance of thunderstorms today. The daytime highs won't reach the level they did last week. Today's high should be around 93, tomorrow 91. And right now, we're at 84 degrees. It's partly cloudy. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The National Weather Service in Salt Lake City has issued a severe thunderstorm warning for southeastern Tualatin County in northern Utah until 2:30 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time. At 2:02 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time, severe thunderstorms were located along a line extending from 14 miles west of Skull Valley to near Douglas English Village, moving northeast at 30 miles per hour. Hazard, 60 miles per hour wind gusts and penny-size hail. Source, radar indicated. Impact, expects damage to roofs, siding, and trees. Locations impacted include Douglas English Village, Tooele Army Depot South, Skull Valley, and Rush Valley. For your protection, move to an interior room on the lowest floor of a building. Repeating, a severe thunderstorm warning has been issued until 2:30 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time for the following county, Tooele, Utah.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson on Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
As the United States continues to grapple with staggering national debt, we recently surpassed $35 trillion. And there doesn't seem to be very many people out there who are willing to have a serious conversation about a serious issue that I think impacts everything from national security to what's happening at the local level to what impacts the poorest and the most vulnerable among us. The question is anyone willing to have a serious conversation about a serious issue? Let's begin.
Think you know the news of the day? Think again with Boyd Matheson on KSL News Radio.
Well, it's time to think again about what we think we know about the number $35 trillion. $35 trillion in debt. We need to look at what's happening there and why politicians and elected officials on both sides of the spectrum are completely unserious in addressing it. We often complain about conflict in our nation's capital, that it is the problem back there. Well, in one area, there is an exception, and this is it. You cannot get $35 trillion in debt through conflict. You can only get there through collusion. And it is both sides who have been willing to spend us all the way to $35 trillion. You've heard me use the analogy before that if I were to go home and say to my wife, Debbie, I think we need a bigger big screen TV. If we had conflict over that because it was going to blow a hole in the budget or we weren't going to be able to make ends meet at the end of the month, we wouldn't buy that. We'd make a sound, responsible decision knowing that the math always wins. But if, on the other hand, I were to go home and to say, hey, I've been thinking that we really do need that big screen TV, and I know it'll blow a hole in the budget, but I know you've also been wanting to have a nice new living room set and some new floors so when the grandkids come over. And that'll really blow a hole in the budget, but we'll figure it out. Things will pick up and things will be good and it'll work out in the end. We got a long way to go. And then we collude and we both agree to make a bad decision, then we make a bad decision. And that is exactly how you get $35 trillion in debt. It's through collusion. It's, well, I know it's too much and I know we can't afford it, but hey, I'll give you some of this, or this would be great for your district back home, or this might even help you get reelected come fall. And you start throwing the money around, and before you know it, you're $35 trillion in debt. And just to put that into perspective, a baby born today, their responsibility, if you were to break all of that out, would be over $105,000. Every single human in the country has about $105,000 built into that $35 trillion. And now we're dealing with this lovely thing called interest. And interest always goes, it never sleeps, and it always wins. And it usually crushes you if you don't take care of it. Right now, in this year, the interest payment alone on our national debt will be $900 billion. $900 billion in just interest payment. So if you're paying anything off with interest right now, if you've got a balance on your credit card loan, just think of how much you pay in interest. And it doesn't reduce the balance. It just is the interest. $900 billion. Now, part of the problem with that $900 billion is the fact that it doesn't buy anything else. In other words, we can't buy better health care with that $900 billion because it's just going to pay interest. We can't buy new tanks and planes if we want to fund the military. We can't spend that $900 billion in education or roads or infrastructure. It goes nowhere. It is just an interest payment on our $35 trillion. But nobody wants to talk about cutting things that don't work, and nobody wants to talk about raising taxes or things that will help pay for that. And so we just end up where we are, and we just continue to rack it up. And all we have to do is look at history to recognize this does not end well. There are very few countries in the history of ever who've been able to bounce back from this kind of crushing debt. And then we just continue it with deficit spending. Now, whether you are a big fan of former Vice President Mike Pence or not, he is someone who is serious about having a serious conversation about the national debt. In fact, his organization just put out a memo that actually has some really good practical, tactical things that could be supported in a bipartisan way in Washington. And he goes through all the big drivers of our national debt. And, of course, a lot of those are found in mandatory spending. You know, most of the spending that takes place in Washington every year, nobody even votes on it. It's mandatory. It's just automatic. Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, all of those things are just kind of on autopilot. And sadly, we know they're all running out of money. And by 2034, most of them will be bankrupt. Or they're going to have such incredible cuts. Imagine this. Everyone loves to run the political ad against their opponent who says we need to fix this, saying, oh, they just want to push grandma off the cliff. That's the political expense of being serious about dealing with the debt. Well, rather than showing grandma being pushed off the cliff, which is total fake, false choice, just imagine this, because this will happen in 2033. Go tell grandma today that she is going to have an automatic cut of 21%. 21% of her Social Security. And it doesn't matter what anybody does. If things don't change, if the trajectory isn't corrected, if changes aren't implemented, grandma's going to have a 21% cut. So how does that fly? The answer's not well. And so we have to get people who are serious about it. You can go and check out former Vice President Mike Pence's plan. It is a serious plan. It's not rocket science. It's not radical, but it's doing simple things. Freeze non-defense spending. End the shutdown theatrics, because we always spend more money with the threat of a shutdown than we do otherwise. Force Congress to just do their job. September 30th is coming, folks. The government's supposed to be funded. We need to vote on 12 appropriations bills to do it. Let's hold them accountable to actually do it. Let's end earmarks. Earmarks have come back in our process there in Washington, D.C. It always adds more to the process. There's still more COVID money out there. Do you know there's still $240 billion in COVID spending that's just sitting there? And it'll get spent, and a lot of it will get misspent. And there's a host of things that you could just zero out. There are so many programs that are either duplicative or have just all kinds of waste, fraud, and abuse. There are others that have just never produced the results they promised. And so let's have some accountability for those, and let's end them. And if we did that and consolidated, there'd be all kinds of savings. And radically enough, they'd actually serve the public and the people better. So I applaud former Vice President Mike Pence, who is serious about this. His Advancing American Freedom, you can check out their proposal there. It's pretty straightforward. I don't know a Democrat or a Republican who would look at that and say that's crazy talk. It is rational. It is reasonable. It is responsible. And we've got to start talking differently when it comes to that. When it comes to that, we've got to be ready. And so we have to make sure that we're creating space for the serious leaders in the country to have the serious conversation. If all we're doing is chasing the radical stuff and the divisive stuff because it's entertaining or interesting or a distraction to the rest of the world, we got to get back to serious leadership. And it requires people to put forward proposals, what former Vice President Mike Pence put forward. And again, whether you like it or not, let's at least debate it. Let's have a conversation about it, because that would change the direction and ultimately would change the results. We'll be right back.
Think again on Inside Sources with Boyd Matheson. It's been a crazy summer.
The shooter managed to get onto a roof.
Would you be my running mate and let's get this thing on?
It's a hot weather stretch.
The Olympics are coming back to Utah.
And no hint of slowing down. Tim and Amanda get you caught up on what happened overnight from 5 to 9. Dave and Debbie and Boyd Matheson take a deep dive on the day's biggest stories from 9 to 3. And Jeff Kaplan gives you his trademark Minute of News for your drive home.
We have you covered on KSL News Radio.
Emergency traffic brought to you by Sinclair's Dino Pay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. This is emergency traffic. Northbound I-15, all lanes of travel are shut down at the moment due to a serious multi-car crash. Your best bet is to move over to the 3 left lanes. The delays start right a little south of 5300 South, and the crash again is about 3900 South. Michelle Rowan, the KSL Traffic Center.
Do you know why more homeowners choose Any Hour Services for help when it's time to replace their air conditioners? What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and the main reasons people choose Any Hour Services is because of our people, processes, and convenience. People tell us all the time that there's just something different about having an Any Hour Services technician in their home. That's why most of our over 18,000 Google reviews mention our technicians by name. Another reason is our 7-step install process that we call the Any Hour Difference. It all starts with the needs analysis, where you explain what you like and dislike about your current system. This helps us design and size a system that fits your comfort and efficiency preferences as well as your home's airflow requirements. As for convenience, most of our installs are completed in one day. We also have flexible, no-money down financing options available, even if you've been told no in the past. So if you've been thinking about getting a new air conditioner, call Any Hour Services and schedule a free estimate today. Google Any Hour Services or schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
This is the story of the one. As a warehouse manager, her job is to transform chaos into clarity and to see patterns where others see problems. Luckily, she's got a partner who shares her perspective. Grainger offers over 1 million industrial-grade products, backed by real person support and in-depth online resources, so she can tackle every task with precision and turn potential setbacks into streamlined success. Call clickgrainger.com or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
When you switch and save with Progressive, you could use that money towards going to see your favorite team in the playoffs. Progressive cannot guarantee that you can go see your favorite team in the playoffs. Drivers who switch and save with Progressive could save hundreds on average, but we cannot guarantee that your favorite team will make the playoffs or even finish with a winning record. They could easily lose more than half their games and finish in the cellar because they stink badly and haven't made the playoffs in years. Savings? Very possible. Playoffs? Highly doubtful. Switch and see if you could save at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance and Affiliates, not available in all states. We cannot be held liable for your favorite team's terrible and frankly embarrassing performances now or ever.
Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa. This weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa. This weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. 18-month interest-free financing. Our factories have demanded we sell 1,000 hot tubs and swim spas this weekend. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Huge factory incentives, factory rebates, this weekend only. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. We can remove your old hot tub. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Hot tub starting at $2,999. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Just relax and enjoy. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Friday, 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Free admission, free parking, free delivery. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Call 833-SPA-SALE or visit hottubandSwimSpaSale.com.
Attention homeowners considering roof replacement in 2024. Light up your home this August with Master Roofing. Schedule your roof replacement by September 10th and receive a free V-Lux sun tunnel valued at $1,200. Perfect for brightening your bathrooms and hallways. Don't miss out. Visit MasterRoofingUtah.com to schedule your free assessment and claim your free V-Lux sun tunnel. Call 801-383-0072 or visit MasterRoofingUtah.com today. Light up your home with Master Roofing.
I decided to go to Mountain Heights Academy because online school makes me concentrate more on schoolwork, and we can work at our own pace. Each week has a schedule, but we can decide if we want to work ahead. We could have a 3-day weekend if we decide to turn everything in on Thursday. I really like Mountain Heights Academy because it's so flexible and it just works for me.
Mountain Heights Academy is an online public school for grades 7 through 12. Visit our website to learn how it can work for you.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, there's a severe thunderstorm warning in effect for the area of Tooele County near Dugway until 2:30 this afternoon. Second, kids watching American athletes at the Olympics are getting excited about gymnastics. And third, threats against Jewish students at Cornell have landed a former student in prison. 84 degrees, partly cloudy right now in Salt Lake. And back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Get deeper insights on the news from inside sources.
This is an important conversation for all of us. You know, the delicate balance between fostering innovation, safeguarding things like national security is always a big concern. It should be a bigger concern, I think, for policymakers as well as industry leaders. With the global competitors vying for AI supremacy, that seems to be the conversation of the day. The decisions that get made in Washington, D.C. are going to have far-reaching implication for America's technological leadership and even some geopolitical standing. So obviously there's a lot of concerns about AI, rightfully so, but there's also ways that we can harness the power for good, that we can make sure we do the right protections in terms of the country's security and so on. And so let's have a conversation in the right way about this. Far too often the knee-jerk reaction is to, well, we just got to regulate the heck out of it. Which is what tends to come out of Washington, D.C. Really thrilled to have join us on the program Nick Whitaker, fellow at the Manhattan Institute. And Nick analyzes emerging technology policy, focuses on artificial intelligence. He's also an editor and founder of Works in Progress. I love this. It's a magazine of new and underrated ideas in science, technology, and economics. And they're always crucial conversations. And Nick, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
I love your piece in the City Journal where you talk about AI specifically and giving the right framing of what we really need is more understanding and maybe less regulation. Explain that for us.
Sure. So I think that AI is going to be the most consequential technology of this century. And it's going to have these wide-ranging implications both in our sort of economic standing and also our military standing. There's been a lot of questions about how to deal with this. You know, something like 500 bills are being considered at state legislatures and the federal government right now. And I think the question is, what should we do to put ourselves in the best economic position possible? And my takeaway is that right now it's often too early to regulate the technology. But I think that by building mechanisms in government to start to understand what AI is capable of, will create avenues for later action, whether it's to utilize that technology within government, to support the industry, or to integrate it into our national security apparatus.
Yeah, and I think that's such an important piece of it. And so kind of walk us through how you see that playing out. The number of bills, as you mentioned, is staggering when you look at both the local and the federal level in terms of what that is. But kind of walk us through how should we go about that understanding component to it? Obviously, there's still a lot of unknowns when it comes to the technology. But kind of describe what a path might look like in terms of not just jumping to the regulatory side of things, but that understanding and then building good policy around it.
Sure. So the important thing to realize with AI is that when an AI system is created through the deep learning process, not even the developers who create that system know exactly what that system is going to be capable of. They sort of don't know what the system has learned by its processing of data. So what happens inside labs after they create a new model is what's called evaluations. And those evaluations say, how good is this AI at answering questions? How good is this AI at generating images? How good is this AI at writing an essay? They ask all sorts of questions to figure out what the AI is capable of. But it's not just labs that are asking those questions. It's all sorts of people with throughout society. So there's an institute that's been set up in the U.S. government called the U.S. AI Safety Institute. And I think it's really important that this institute is empowered to do these evaluations, to ask the questions that are most important for government. Are these models, capable of handling data privately? Are these models capable of, useful sort of economic and military functions? And, through that institute, we can sort of create avenues within government to understand where and how we can deploy these technologies. But the second way to build that understanding is just to start start procuring the technologies, procuring AIs, within the military and national security environment, and doing internal tests, doing small scale tests, so the people who will be later using these systems can get sort of hands-on experience and understand how they work and what they're capable of. So I think both, kind of having a part of government studying them and having a part of government using them is how you create that broad base of understanding throughout the U.S. government.
Yeah, I love that's super important. I'm glad you framed it that way. Give us a sense in terms of kind of the consequences if we do end up just doing the almost knee-jerk reaction, over-regulation of AI. And then give us one thing to kind of keep our eye on, especially as we roll into the fall and some of these things start to bubble up in terms of some actual votes and pieces of legislation.
Sure. So I think we've really seen, sort of the bad future in the European Union, where the new EU AI Act, and in combination with earlier tech bills in the UK in the EU, have massively stifled industry. So in the next generation of iPhones, they're rolling out these Apple Intelligence features that do all sorts of handy stuff. Like if you write a problem out in your Notes app, it can give you kind of AI generated solutions to that problem. And Apple has already said that they might not be able to roll out these features in the EU at all because of the sort of regulatory threat that the European Commission has created there. So, I think that's the future, a future where we sort of regulate every single use of AI within society, and often, don't allow AI to be used at all.
And then rolling into the fall, give us one thing to keep our eye on as everything kind of marches forward.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a key question as the campaign gets further along, and I think what is Donald Trump and Kamala Harris going to say about AI? And I think Harris has sort of expressed this idea that we need to make sure that AIs aren't biased, and we need to make sure that that sort of AIs don't create social harms. I think Donald Trump has outlined an AI policy that's more permissive in sort of that the market is going to be able to figure some of these things out, but that there are these very important national security problems that we need to be aware of as we watch the development of AI. So I really think that people should be asking the candidates about how they're going to approach AI, and this is going to be one of the most important issues in the coming years.
Yeah, great perspective, great insight. Nick Whitaker, fellow at the Manhattan Institute. And Nick, great piece and great perspective as we deal with this emerging technology. As you said, it will be one of the highest impact components in the century. And what happens in terms of regulation, what happens in terms of understanding, it's going to have a big impact on all of us. Thanks so much for joining us today, Nick.
Thank you for having me.
All right, great perspective from Nick Whitaker there. And I love the fact that he's saying, hey, we can't just go to where government often does, and that is just a knee-jerk reaction to something new, and that is to regulate it. Often that stifles the innovation. You lose the creativity. You lose the competitive advantage. At the same time, we don't want things to just be willy-nilly and the wild, wild west. It's not saying that either. But I love the fact that Nick is saying the first thing we have to do is gain understanding. Understand first, get to policy and even to regulation second. And if you follow the sequence and you trust the process, you're going to get a better result in the end, which will both protect national security, protect the American people, and enable us to continue to have the things that we need as a country, both internally and around the world. All right, we'll step aside for some bottom of the hour news. More Inside Sources coming up next on KSL News Radio. Stick around. We'll be right back.
It's 2:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top story this hour. We have breaking news out of Los Angeles right now. Kids in L.A. went back to school today, and while they were in class, they were rattled by a magnitude 4.4 earthquake. This was centered near Pasadena, but people felt it from San Diego north to Santa Barbara. Schools went to their emergency procedures and told students to duck and cover and then evacuate. Utah students are starting to head back to school this week. Today, kids in Washington County are back in class. Provo and Tooele school districts start back up tomorrow. Granite District back on Wednesday. Alpine, Davis, and Ogden students will be back before the end of the week. Salt Lake City, Jordan, and Canyon school districts start next week. A wetter than normal winter and spring had some dire consequences for wild horses. Federal officials say they found a mare and two foals stuck in the mud at a pond in west central Utah. They were able to rescue one of the foals, but not the mare or the other foal.
The third foal that was on site did take off with another wild horse that showed up and headed in the direction of the Muddy Creek region where there's good forage, good waters.
Gus War leads the Wild Horse and Burro program for the BLM. He says that pond is usually all the way dry this time of year, so it was unusual to find horses there. He says if the horses had been found earlier, they might have been able to save them. And again, our top national story this hour from ABC News. A 4.4 magnitude earthquake has shaken the Los Angeles area, centered near Pasadena. Little damage and no injuries reported from that. Coming up, our KSL weather. There's a thunderstorm warning in effect through 2:30 this afternoon in Tooele County, and that's next. KSL News Time, 2:32.
You know what's great about KSL's traffic coverage? Trained traffic reporters and real listeners.
Trading information and making the commute safer and faster for everyone.
Every 10 minutes on the 9s, we have you covered on KSL News Radio.
You wouldn't know it, but most financial advisors are put in a box. I'm Jeff Jr. from Trajan Wealth, and I want to provide you a little insight about financial advisors. Most financial advisors have to sell what their company requires them to sell, and many advisors have to only adhere to what's called a suitability standard. A suitability standard is a limited standard of care, not requiring what's sold to be best just suitable. Advisors with this loose standard often have limited investment and product selection. Trajan Wealth is held to a fiduciary standard, which is the highest standard of care in the advisory business. And that's just one of the many reasons we have billions of dollars under our care and attract clients from other advisors. Raise your standards today and call Trajan Wealth. Call 801-899-7600. That's 801-899-7600.
Advisory services offered through Trajan Wealth, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor.
In a crisis, your number one need is food, because when things go sideways, it's always one of the first things to sell out. But if you wait to stock up, all you'll find at the grocery store are crowds of desperate people and empty shelves. That's why FEMA and the Red Cross say you need at least 72 hours of non-perishable food. But here's the good news. For Patriots, the trusted preparedness company is offering listeners of this station a special buy one, get two free deal on its best-selling 72-hour survival food kits. This new and improved kit has 20 servings of delicious food for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, all designed to last for 25 years. It sells for $29 and has been rated 4.4 stars by thousands of happy customers. But when you act quickly and buy one kit, you will get two more kits absolutely free. That's 3 kits for the price of one. $58 in free food. Go to freefood1.com. That's freefood1.com. This deal won't last. Go to freefood1.com now.
The National Weather Service in Salt Lake City has issued a severe thunderstorm warning for east central Tooele County in northern Utah until 3 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time. At 2:30 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time, a severe thunderstorm was located near Skull Valley, Oregon, 12 miles southwest of Grantsville, moving northeast at 40 miles per hour. Hazard, 60 miles per hour wind gusts and quarter-size hail. Source, radar indicated. Impact, hail damage to vehicles is expected. Expect wind damage to roofs, siding, and trees. Locations impacted include Tooele, Grantsville, Stansbury Park, Tooele Army Depot, Skull Valley, and Erta. This includes Interstate 80 in Utah between mile markers 84 and 94. For your protection, move to an interior room on the lowest floor of a building. Repeating, a severe thunderstorm warning has been issued until 3 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time for the following county: Tooele, Utah.
Is your summer heating up a little too much? Feeling the heat both literally and financially? The Blind Man can be your summer hero. Beat the heat and keep your wallet cool with stylish insulating shutters and cellular shades from The Blind Man. Enjoy a cooler home and lower energy bills with high-quality window coverings. And these benefits extend beyond summer. These same insulating properties can also help retain heat during the winter, contributing to year-round comfort and energy savings. The Blind Man's shutters and shades offer the perfect blend of enduring style and modern simplicity. They also provide an extra layer of protection against the sun, reducing reducing heat gain, lowering your cooling costs. Plus, for peace of mind, their shutters and cordless shades are child safe. Don't miss out creating your summer oasis. Visit theblindman.com today to schedule a free in-home consultation and find the perfect shades and shutters for your comfort needs. Theblindman.com.
From Ogden to St. George, Utah's premier window covering provider, The Blind Man.
We have emergency traffic now, brought to you by Sinclair's Dino Pay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. And here's Michelle Rowe.
Well, this is due to a crash northbound I-15 down. This is about 4100 south, so it's just south of the 3900 south exit. All lanes of travel have been shut down. They do have the four right lanes, or left lanes I should say, open now at this point, but you're backed up clear to the south interchange. We have more weather trouble affecting you at the south end of the valley and then also on I-80. This is west of Lake Point. Business owners get schooled on the ABCs of asphalt and concrete before fall. GoPave Utah can educate you on getting the most life out of your parking lot. Visit GoPaveUtah.com. I'm Michelle Rowan, the KSL Traffic Center.
And that emergency thunderstorm warning affects central Tooele County in the area from Skull Valley northward to Interstate 80. That is in effect until 3 o'clock this afternoon. Today's high should be around 93, tomorrow 91, and right now we're at 86 degrees in Salt Lake City under mostly cloudy skies. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson on Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Well, as always, we're going to try to get underneath the headlines just a little bit, and we're going to do that with our good friend Jonah Goldberg, editor-in-chief and co-founder of The Dispatch. And I want to do this in two parts today because Jonah's just been on a tear, and so we always have to dig into those opportunities and insights when we get them. And we have Jonah on the line. And Jonah, I want to start with obviously the unexpected rise of Kamala Harris and this whole idea of her getting tested, that she hasn't done a press conference, she hasn't done a sit-down interview. And on one hand, you can say from a consultant standpoint, from a political campaign strategy, ride the wave if you're getting your message out. But it actually would probably be to her benefit and definitely to the country's benefit if she actually had a little bit of scrutiny.
Yeah, no, for sure. And first of all, it's great to be back. You never know in politics how long you can ride a moment before, the wave crashes over on top of you. And I think we're hitting that point now. Like economists would call it the point of diminishing returns, because the message that you won't speak to the press, it feels like it's starting to break through.
Yeah.
And it also feels like there are enough questions that have been raised, legitimate, illegitimate, maybe legitimate, we don't know, Tim Waltz and all that stuff, that she should come out and answer some questions. She's also the vice president of the United States, and she kind of has a governmental role to reassure the country and our allies and global markets that, there's some continuity of governance since the president is not in great shape, or at least is believed to not be in great shape. At the same time, I think they were smart not to do any interviews at first, not to give any long press conferences, because she's not great at them. And when your opponent, go back to Sun Tzu or Napoleon or wherever you want, when your opponent is, stepping on garden rakes like Foghorn Leghorn, you don't get in the way. And so she should give interviews. The press should be more demanding that she give interviews. And I suspect they're going to figure out some sort of joint appearance with her and Tim Waltz, and it'll be with 60 Minutes or somebody. But she got a lot out of this strategy. I just think it's hit the point of diminishing returns.
Yeah, and I think it is one thing to I always thought with former President Barack Obama, his having to go and, he didn't cinch up the nomination against Hillary Clinton until June of that year. And somehow I think in that process of taking all the questions and doing all the sit-downs and trying to go through that, I think it made him a better general election candidate. But I think it also helped him in terms of being a better leader. You can always win an election by taking the easy path, but it doesn't mean you necessarily get to lead. And I love that you pointed out that she is still the vice president of the United States, and our allies and enemies, as well as the American people, deserve some answers to get some certainty in terms of where we actually are.
Yeah, and she needs to figure out how to do that in a smart way. I agree with you entirely about the role of primaries. I'm a big opponent of primaries. I would love to get rid of them. But one of the benefits you get from them is it's a real trial by fire.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of very serious Democratic consultants. I mean, that's one of the benefits now that I'm at CNN, is I talk to a lot more Democrats than I used to. And, and off camera, one of the reasons why they were very nervous and very skeptical about Kamala wasn't just that she was part of the incumbent unpopular administration. It wasn't just that she did so bad in the 2019 primaries. It's that she hasn't been tested the way a normal candidate in a primary is.
Right.
And to throw her into that deep an end of the pool all of a sudden made a lot of them nervous. Now, that would have been a problem with anybody, but because presidential election primaries are a beast that is unique unto themselves, and they test you in ways that no other primaries do. But still, she would have benefited by, sharpening her edge a bit.
Yep.
So we'll see.
Yeah, fascinating stuff. I also want to go to the piece you had out today because I've watched this commercial, this Nike commercial about am I a bad person? And I had the same dis-ease with the whole thing that you did. But I want you to take our listeners through that because I think it's so telling in terms of where we are. And there's some important lessons for us in that.
Yeah, so the commercial, if you haven't seen it, you can find it on YouTube all over the place and that kind of thing. But it's the title of it is "Am I a Bad Person?" and it's a Nike commercial. It's a voiceover thing by Willem Dafoe, who's a great actor, but he's got this scary, crazy, irrational voice. He sounds like it's the same voice he uses where he plays the Green Goblin in the Spider-Man movies, and he just runs through this like rapid fire, sort of machine gun of questions and statements where he says, I have no compassion for you. I don't respect you. What's yours is mine, and what's mine is mine. I have no empathy, all these things. And then the refrain is over and over again. Does that make me a bad person? Am I a bad person? Tell me. So it's kind of unhinged. It's kind of deranged. And it's voiced over a bunch of shots of famous athletes, being real competitors. And I think anybody who knows anything about sports understands that, there's a winner's mentality and that you have to have like eye of the tiger and all that stuff and all those cliches, but you're not supposed to be a jerk, right? I mean, like we have notions of sportsmanship in this country. We have notions of decency, and the idea that you should have nothing but utter contempt, no empathy, no compassion for your opponents, for your teammates, for your competitors of any kind, it just felt incredibly discordant with, first of all, the spirit of the Olympics, right? Where the whole thing about sportsmanship is that, yes, it's a pursuit of excellence, but it's also sort of like moral excellence and decency and that kind of stuff. And you help up an opponent, you knock to the ground afterwards and all that kind of stuff. And this just rejects all of it. And I was tempted to do it about, this is the triumph of Friedrich Nietzsche in our culture and all this kind of stuff. But the point of the piece really was just that so much of our, it used to be that when people did cultural criticism in the 19th century or before the television age, or even when we were kids, like you could point out things that just were bad lessons, that taught people bad things, that glorified immoral behavior. And now, as long as some cultural product, some piece of pop culture doesn't have a political message, no one cares, no one talks about it. And if you do object to something, the only objections you'll get back have to do with politics. Like, is it team red or team blue in the culture war stuff?
Yeah.
Where we live in a country, we live in a society. Team red and team blue are supposed to believe that we're supposed to raise kids to have a certain sense of sportsmanship and decency. And the response I get from a lot of people is, why do you care? It's just a commercial. Well, that commercial is going to be seen by more people than Sean Hannity or Rachel Maddow or any of these people, right? And it gets pumped into a way where people don't have their filters to say, oh, this is someone political telling me something that I should think twice about. We just drink from it like it's a fire hose, and it spills. I first saw it as a trailer in a movie theater. And, and so millions and millions and millions of people, particularly kids, are going to see it. And it's all being done I'm pro-capitalism, but it's all being done just to sell sneakers. And it's telling people that real winners are jerks and are sociopaths. And I just think that's lamentable.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to get one last thing in before I let you go, Jonah, because you also spent some time in the piece just getting to the whole idea of rhetoric today. And why that matters. And I think it's a crucial part of this whole conversation. Just give us a little snapshot into that quick.
Yeah, so like rhetoric, there's this cultural critic, I mean, he's passed away, but Wayne Booth, who had this line about rhetoric, he says, rhetoric is the art of probing what we believe we ought to believe, right? It is a way to appeal to the story that we should want to tell about ourselves and our society and our civilization. Today, to the extent you ever hear the word rhetoric, it's used dismissively to say, oh, well, that's just rhetoric, right? Or as if it's just like boilerplate or sound bites or a good line or, something like that. It's political, that you're supposed to ignore it. It's sort of like when people say everything you hear all the compliments you hear someone say before the but don't mean anything. It's sort of like when you say something is rhetoric, you're supposed to just sort of discount it because it doesn't mean anything. But rhetoric matters. Rhetoric is as Booth would say, it's the art of trying to persuade people to be better.
Yeah.
To live towards an ideal, to hew towards a principle or a mode of conduct that makes you a better person or a better society. And we're so cynical today that we just ignore. We have just no space for that aspect of things outside of a partisan context. So Democrats, when they hear rhetoric they think, oh, that sounds great, and they say it's so patriotic. And Republican hears rhetoric that they like, they have that response. But outside of that, we don't have time for people who want us to be good people.
Yeah.
Regardless of our partisan affiliation.
Exactly. Great perspective as always. Jonah Goldberg, editor-in-chief, co-founder of The Dispatch. And you can check out these pieces at thedispatch.com. It should be part of your day every day. It's part of mine because it gets to the right conversation about the right issues. I always learn something. I always become more curious, and it helps me not in political conversations, but in personal conversations. And Jonah, as always, we appreciate you making time for us today.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
All right, that's Jonah Goldberg, editor-in-chief, co-founder of The Dispatch, and his piece is called Do the Bad Guys Always Win? And it is worth reading, and it's even more important, worth thinking about and acting on today. We'll step aside for a quick break. More Inside Sources coming up next.
Attention homeowners considering roof replacement in 2024. Light up your home this August with Master Roofing. Schedule your roof replacement by September 10th and receive a free V-Lux sun tunnel valued at $1,200. Perfect for brightening your bathrooms and hallways. Don't miss out. Visit masterroofingutah.com to schedule your free assessment and claim your free V-Lux sun tunnel. Call 801-383-0072 or visit masterroofingutah.com today. Light up your home with Master Roofing.
My wife and I always loved doing everything together. Jiu-jitsu, kayaking, and intimacy was always on point. It was around my early 30s when I noticed a downward trend. Watching a lot of TV, putting on weight, and just full of self-doubt. I had tried another men's clinic with disappointing results. It's the personalized treatment I receive at Revive Men's Health that has been the complete game changer for me. I've got my energy and motivation back. I'm feeling stronger than I did in my 20s, and it made me a much better husband to my wife.
I'm Eric Ramos, healthcare provider at Revive Men's Health. If you are always feeling tired or moody, have a difficult time sleeping, or decreased libido, you may be suffering from low testosterone.
Book your free T-check and exam at Revive Men's Health, Salt Lake City.
Call 801-263-7777. That's 801-263-7777. Or visit ReviveMen'sHealth.com.
With Progressive's Name Your Price tool, you can easily find coverage options that fit your budget. If only it was that easy to name your baby.
How about Jaden?
Nope.
Okay. Michael?
Went to middle school with a glue-eating Michael.
Sebastian?
Dated one in college.
How about Damien?
Vampire name.
All right. Greg?
Not feeling it.
Okay. No worries. No worries. Jeffrey?
Oh, love that one.
Wait, really?
No.
Find coverage options that fit your budget with Progressive's Name Your Price tool. Get a quote at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
Want to keep your gas-powered engines running like new? Stable's proprietary formulas are proven by third-party testing to outperform the competition in keeping fuel fresh, preventing corrosion, and cleaning the entire fuel system. With Stable, you can have confidence you are doing the right thing for your engine's long-term health. Just pour into your gas can or fuel tank, then top off with fresh fuel. At every fill-up or when you store, start with Stable. Available where fuel additives are sold.
Hi, my name is Kendon Holdaway, and I work for the National Kidney Foundation of Utah and Idaho. Before that, I worked as a dialysis technician at the largest dialysis center in Utah. And before that, I was diagnosed with chronic kidney disease at age 14. However, I am one of the lucky ones. I have an amazing mother who gave me a second chance. She donated her kidney to me, and it changed my life. Thanks to her and a scholarship from the Kidney Foundation, I was able to graduate college, get married, and apply to medical school in hopes of becoming a doctor. Sadly, there are many who are not as lucky as I am. Every car you donate to towcars.org gives hope and help to 3,000 patients like me, many of whom are still waiting for their miracle. Towing is free and donations are tax deductible. Keep donations local by donating online at towkars.org. That's tow cars with a K, like kidney.
You know, in Box Elder County, they're all about the bucket list. Want to go birding at the premier birding destination in the western United States? Well, check off the Bear River Migratory Bird Refuge. How about land art? The spiral jetty and sun tunnels will leave you inspired. Or stand on the spot where the Union and Central Pacific Railroads joined and forged the destiny of a nation. Yep, Golden Spike National Historical Park is like no other place. Check. Splash, boat, camp, or fish your day away? Willard Bay State Park will guarantee a good time. Soak in a natural hot spring with the highest mineral content in the world? That would be Crystal Hot Springs. You'll feel rejuvenated. Eat at Utah's original steakhouse. Maddox Ranch House is perfection. Check. A 1920s diner. The Idle Owl Cafe will transport you back in time. As you empty your Box Elder County bucket list, you'll find a whole new set of adventures to fill it up again. Fill up your bucket list at visitboxeldercounty.com.
Getting help with electrical repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bonas. First, a severe thunderstorm warning is in effect for Tooele County from Skull Valley northward to I-80 until 3 o'clock. Second, a magnitude 4.4 earthquake interrupted the first day of school for kids in Los Angeles today. And third, the BLM couldn't save two wild horses that died near a dried-up pond in Utah's West Desert. 84 degrees, mostly cloudy in Salt Lake City. And back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Hear elevated conversation on crucial issues. Boyd Matheson on Inside Sources.
Welcome back to Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. Great to be with you today. As always, I am Boyd Matheson. As we round out the program today, I want to pick it up with where we left off with Jonah Goldberg. And we were talking about rhetoric as we closed out that conversation. And the fact that rhetoric is really the art of persuading people to be better. Or as he framed it, it's the idea that you can probe what we believe we ought to believe. And one of the greatest at that throughout history was Abraham Lincoln. And as all of you know, I love to learn and forever be curious. And I learned something new this morning that I can't get out of my head as it relates to Lincoln. Now, we have discussed on this program many times all the different aspects of Lincoln's first inaugural address and how important that was to the nation prior to the Civil War, what it set up, what followed, the rhetoric that Lincoln used. But there were 5 words in there that I have forever missed, and I have missed the meaning, and I think it is one of the most important messages in the entire address from Abraham Lincoln. So we know how it closes. The last paragraph, starting with the second sentence, says, "We are not enemies but friends. We must not be enemies. Though passions may have strained, it must not break our bonds of affection. The mystic cords of memory, stretching from every battlefield and patriot grave to every living heart and hearthstone all over this broad land, will yet swell the chorus of the Union when again touched, as surely they will be, by the better angels of our nature." Now, a lot of us are familiar with that component, but there are 5 words that come before that we need to think again about. So before Lincoln closed out with those beautiful words that I just shared, he said, "I am loath to close." I am loath to close. Now, that's an interesting thing. He's obviously to the last paragraph of his speech. So why would he say, "I am loath to close"? Our good friend David Blankenhorn from Braver Angels gave some insight on this that has just got me noodling and thinking in a new way. David suggested that perhaps what Lincoln was really recognizing in saying, "I am loath to close," was that Lincoln may have recognized that that was the last moment where the dialogue between the North and the South could exist. That things were shutting down, that the conversations were ending, that the divide was getting so great, that the rhetoric was getting so hot, that he didn't want to stop because he didn't want the conversation to end. So he was loath to close. He wanted the American people to stay in conversation. He wanted them to stay in community. He wanted them to stay in questioning and being curious. Lincoln was loath to close because he didn't want to close the options for peace. He didn't want to close the options for keeping the nation united rather than divided. He didn't want the American people to close their minds to possibilities and what it meant to be an American. He didn't want anyone to close their mind to the curiosity that leads to better questions. I think we all should be a little loath to close, especially the crucial conversations we need to have. I know there are many times in my life, in my marriage, in my conversations with my children, in community, with bosses and colleagues, when I have closed conversations or ended them and ended the possibilities with it. We often talk on this show about staying with the conversation a little longer. I think that's what Abraham Lincoln was longing for as he closed out his inaugural address, knowing that the conversation for a season in this country was going to end. We all should be loath to close the conversations. We should keep them open, stay in conversation, stay in community, stay with the question a little longer, because the answers are what will unite us and move us forward as a nation. That wraps it up for us on Inside Sources today here on KSL News Radio. I'm Boyd Matheson. Thanks for joining us. And as always, as you go out into the world today, make sure you see something that inspires, say something that uplifts, and do something that makes a difference.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Good afternoon, 3 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Jeff Kaplan. 81 degrees in Salt Lake City, KSL's top story. The trees are rustling. The sun is missing as thunderstorms rumble onto the Wasatch Front. They're now hitting, among other places, Layton. And a look at what you can expect. KSL News Radio's Amy Kobabe is joining us live. Amy?
Jeff, those darkened clouds are bringing some gusty winds, some raindrops to downtown Salt Lake City. Also, in the last few minutes, just seen some flashes of lightning looking especially south and west. This 3 o'clock hour is right when KSL meteorologist Matt Johnson predicted the storms would start.
We've got a lot of water available for these storms, so we are concerned a little bit for some isolated flash flooding, even urban flash flooding.
Matt says that could happen if we get just like 1 to 2 inches just really quickly. The storm drains just cannot keep up with that. We'll continue to monitor those conditions. Michelle Rowe in the traffic center says she is already seeing some wet roads near Point of the Mountain